Artificial intelligence is the hottest new thing in technology right now.
If you read Enoch and then follow about the fall of mankind and angels, this is Christian theology, right? So like angels came down, rebelled against God, entered with humankind.
They'll tell you the Book of Enoch is nothing more than an old religious text, a text that was banned, forgotten, and tucked away from the pages of the Bible. But now, with the help of quantum AI, that story is being shaken to its core.
As a guidebook for life, you have to kind of ignore some of the stuff that doesn't make sense.
The scattered fragments of Enoch's writings have been pieced together, decoded, and read in ways no human scholar could ever manage. What exactly did the AI uncover, and why is everyone arguing about it? There's only one way to find out. Stay tuned. The Book of Enoch isn't your everyday ancient text. It was one of those names that has floated around for centuries. It was often talked about, but rarely read in full. Unlike the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran, you won't see it openly taught in most religious circles. In fact, it was deliberately left out of the Christian Bible, labeled as dangerous or heretical, and kept on the margins of mainstream faith. Yet, it never fully disappeared. Parts of it survived in Ethiopia, where the Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved it as scripture, while the rest of the world turned away.
The Book of Enoch, also known as 1 Enoch, is an ancient Hebrew apocalyptic religious text.
Other fragments were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves of Qumran, written in different languages. Scholars over the years have tried to piece it together, translating what they could, but no one ever managed to form a single, complete, and universally accepted version. Much of the text was damaged, scattered, or simply missing. Still, the little that was known carried a weight of mystery. Historians described it as a collection of visions, strange stories about angels, and teachings that didn't quite fit into the official biblical narrative. Because of this, it became the kind of book people spoke about in half voices that was important enough to survive in fragments. But then it was too controversial to include in mainstream religion. Some experts argued that the book belonged to a very early Jewish tradition, written before the time of Jesus, and that it influenced parts of Christian thought. Others dismissed it as nothing more than ancient myth, full of symbolic language and mystical imagination. A few bold researchers even hinted that the book might contain memories of real events, recorded in a style that later readers misunderstood as myth. But without a full text to study, most of it remained speculation. And that is where the story might have ended. An old book, lost in fragments, endlessly debated, but never fully understood. And that posed a problem. In the AI era, quantum AI, a technology capable of reading, comparing, and reconstructing texts across multiple languages, was finally used to decipher the Book of Enoch. For the first time, instead of depending only on human translators and damaged manuscripts, an intelligence capable of handling vast amounts of linguistic data could attempt to rebuild the missing parts. It could connect dots from Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, to even older roots of language. It could fill in gaps where manuscripts were torn and offer a version of the book closer to what it might have looked like thousands of years ago. What came out of that process surprised even the researchers. The AI brought to life sections of the book that had never been seen in a complete form. Passages that were once broken and unreadable suddenly stood clear, carrying messages that scholars had only guessed about before. But the most amazing part of all of this is that what the AI uncovered inside the Book of Enoch wasn't something random. It wasn't just another set of parables or old religious poetry. According to those who have studied the results, what was revealed may change the way we look at history, faith, and even human origins. So what exactly did the AI find buried in the Book of Enoch? Why has it created such a storm of debate among historians, theologians, and scientists? The answers may shock you. Let's find out. Quantum AI's discovery. When researchers finally let quantum AI analyze the Book of Enoch, the results startled them. For centuries, the text had been incomplete, with torn pages, missing fragments, and translations that often contradicted each other. Some parts seemed like riddles, while others were so damaged that no one knew what they originally said. But AI had the ability to gather all those scattered pieces, compare them with similar languages, and fill in the missing gaps with a level of accuracy humans couldn't achieve. What emerged was a far more complete picture of the book.
The Book of Enoch is part of the literature that's trying to explain that. What on earth is this?
Honestly, it was nothing like ordinary scripture. The eye revealed that Enoch was writing about a group he called the Watchers. These beings were described as powerful, majestic, and not entirely human. According to the text, they descended from the heavens and took an interest in humanity. But their mission wasn't as simple as guidance or protection. Instead, they crossed boundaries that were not meant to be crossed. The Watchers are portrayed as teaching humans skills and secrets that were never supposed to be shared. The AI's reconstruction showed passages where Enoch described them, giving knowledge of metalworking, weapon making, and even cosmetics. At first glance, these might sound ordinary, but in the context of ancient times, this was advanced knowledge. To the people of that era, the sudden appearance of such skills would have been nothing short of extraordinary. Even more startling were the parts about knowledge of the heavens. The AI translation filled in details of the Watchers, explaining the movements of stars, the phases of the moon, and the patterns of the cosmos. Enoch recorded visions of celestial order that looked very similar to astronomical observations we recognize today. For a text that predates telescopes by thousands of years, these descriptions stood out sharply. But the book did not only record lessons, it also spoke about consequences. The AI made clear passages that had once been fragmented, the stories of how the Watchers, after taking human wives and passing down their forbidden teachings, brought corruption into the world. The union between the Watchers and humans produced beings described as giants, sometimes called the Nephilim. They were said to be violent, destructive, and a threat to the balance of creation itself. This part of the book shocked researchers, not because the story was entirely new. It had been hinted at in older translations, but because of how vivid the AI restoration made it. The descriptions of these giants, their hunger, and their rebellion against order seemed to echo myths from other cultures, like the Titans of Greek mythology or the giant beings in Mesopotamian legends. Suddenly, the Book of Enoch looked less like an isolated text and more like a piece of a much larger puzzle about humanity's forgotten past. Then came the visions of judgment. Enoch wrote about great upheavals on earth, floods sweeping across the earth, fire raining from the skies, and punishments said to come straight from the heavens. These prophecies were often vague in earlier translations, but the AI's reconstruction revealed more structure to them. It showed cycles of destruction and renewal, warnings about human pride, and predictions of future generations facing trials eerily similar to what we now describe as natural disasters on a global scale. The prophecies also contained glimpses of an ultimate reckoning, where both humanity and the Watchers would stand accountable. Here, the AI revealed long passages about cosmic courts, angelic scribes, and a record of deeds being kept for the final day of judgment. These themes echoed ideas that later appeared in mainstream religion, particularly Christianity, but in Enoch's account, they felt older, unfiltered, and more detailed. One of the most surprising aspects of the AI translation was how it highlighted descriptions of creation and the natural world that sounded strikingly advanced. Enoch's text spoke about the Earth being suspended in space, about the paths of the stars being fixed, and even about forces that kept everything in balance. Some researchers pointed out how close these passages came to ideas in modern physics and astronomy, though expressed in the poetic language of an ancient world. Another revelation came from the sections about time. The eye clarified passages where Enoch described vast cycles, ages upon ages, measured not in human years, but in cosmic time. The text spoke of great eras, each with its rise and fall, and humanity's place within those cycles. To some readers, it felt as if the book was presenting a timeline of civilizations that had risen and collapsed long before recorded history. Of course, scholars remain divided on what all of this means. Some argue that the Book of Enoch is purely symbolic, a product of ancient imagination shaped by fears and hopes. But others see the AI's reconstruction as evidence that Enoch might have preserved memories of encounters or knowledge that his world could not fully explain. Were the Watchers simply metaphors for human ambition, or were they something else, beings that ancient people truly believed they had met? The debate only grew louder when people noticed how some of the AI-restored passages seemed to connect with ideas we are wrestling with today. The parts about forbidden knowledge raised questions about our own age of rapid technology. The visions of upheaval reminded many of climate change and natural disasters. The descriptions of giants and strange offspring sparked comparisons to modern conversations about genetics and human modification. To the researchers, the shock was not just in the content itself, but in how close the connections felt to the modern world. Here was a text written thousands of years ago, yet it suddenly felt like it was talking about issues we face today. Whether coincidence or hidden wisdom, it forced people to reconsider how much the ancients really knew and how much we may have overlooked. At the heart of it all, the AI did what human translators could never fully achieve. It took fragments scattered across cultures and centuries and gave us a clearer window into one of the most mysterious texts in history. The result was not just another translation. It was a reconstruction that made the Book of Enoch feel alive again, in ways that both fascinated and unsettled those who read it. But there goes the important question. What do these revelations mean for us now? The reactions that followed the discovery. When news broke that quantum AI had reconstructed the Book of Enoch, the reactions came quickly, and they were far from united.
Quantum computers, which are a revolution in hardware, when they get together, watch out.
For some, it was an exciting breakthrough. For others, it was unsettling. The text had already carried a reputation as a controversial book, but now with the AI's results, every group seemed to find something to argue about. Among historians, the reaction was mixed. Some welcomed the AI reconstruction as a useful tool that gave them access to passages they had never been able to study in full. For decades, researchers had been frustrated by how fragmented the text was, with only partial manuscripts and scattered translations available. Suddenly, they had a fuller version, and that opened the door to deeper study. But not everyone agreed. Some scholars warned that AI might be filling in the blanks in ways that were more creative than accurate. They argued that the technology could guess missing words based on patterns, but guessing wasn't the same as truth. According to them, there was a risk of treating the AI version as if it were the original, when in fact it was still partly reconstructed. This created debates in academic circles about whether the findings should be considered reliable history or just another interpretation. Reactions from religious communities were even more intense. In Christianity, the Book of Enoch has always been a sensitive subject. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church continues to treat it as scripture, but most other churches reject it. Some pastors and priests saw the AI translation as dangerous. They argued that the book had been left out of the Bible for a reason, and that bringing it back into public focus could mislead people. Others, however, were curious. Some religious leaders pointed out that parts of the Book of Enoch connect closely with ideas already found in the Bible. For example, the story of the Watchers and the Giants reflects a brief passage in Genesis about the sons of God and the Nephilim. To them, the AI's findings added depth to stories that had always seemed mysterious. They didn't necessarily accept everything in the book as fact, but they believed it could still hold lessons about morality, rebellion, and divine justice. In Islam, there was also curiosity, since the Quran speaks of jinn and beings beyond the human world. Some commentators noted that parallels could be drawn between the Watchers of Enoch and these other spiritual beings. However, official positions remained cautious, since the Book of Enoch is not part of Islamic scripture. Scientists, especially those working in anthropology and archaeology, approached the findings differently. For them, the Book of Enoch wasn't about faith, but about what it revealed regarding ancient cultures. Some anthropologists saw it as a valuable window into the beliefs of early Jewish communities and their view of the universe. But the AI's reconstruction raised bigger questions. The descriptions of astronomy, for instance, caught the attention of some researchers who wondered how ancient writers could describe the movements of the stars in such detail. While skeptics said these were simply poetic expressions of the sky, others noted that ancient people often had surprisingly advanced knowledge of astronomy. The debate grew louder. Were the passages in Enoch just religious imagery, or were they evidence that ancient civilizations knew more about the cosmos than we give them credit for? The reactions that followed this discovery was so massive that even the regular layman had a day in it. Among everyday people, the reactions were even more divided, sometimes far more dramatic. Online forums, podcasts, and YouTube channels lit up with discussions. Some saw the AI findings as proof of hidden truths that institutions had tried to bury. For years, conspiracy theorists had argued that the Book of Enoch contained knowledge that threatened mainstream history, and now they felt vindicated. Others were more skeptical, pointing out that ancient texts often sound mysterious simply because they are old and unfamiliar. To them, the eye hadn't uncovered anything supernatural. It had just made sense of damaged writings. But even those who doubted the more sensational interpretations admitted that the book was fascinating and worth studying. One of the most popular theories that spread after the AI results was the connection to UFOs. The description of the watchers descending from the sky reminded some people of modern accounts of extraterrestrials. The way they gave humans knowledge and interfered with human life sounded, to them, like encounters with advanced beings from another world. Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory, made famous by authors like Erich von Däniken, quickly picked up on this. They argued that the Book of Enoch might be one of the oldest records of alien contact. At the same time, others held firmly to a religious interpretation. For them, the Watchers weren't aliens but fallen angels, spiritual beings who had defied God. The AI reconstruction, by making these passages clearer, gave them more material to support this belief. Some Christian groups pointed to these findings as confirmation that spiritual warfare, rebellion, and divine judgment were real parts of human history. Another area of heated discussion came from the prophecies in the book. The clearer passages about floods, fire, and cycles of destruction were read by some as warnings about modern times. On social media, many compared the descriptions to climate change, wars, and global disasters. For people already inclined to believe in end-time prophecies, the Book of Enoch suddenly looked like a text speaking directly to the present. The AI results also fueled hidden history theories. Some argued that the Book of Enoch hinted at civilizations that existed long before recorded history. The references to giants and strange offspring were taken by some as clues that human history was more complicated than we think. To them, the text wasn't just myth, but memory, evidence of events wiped out by floods or other disasters thousands of years ago. Of course, not everyone was convinced. Many historians warned that it was dangerous to read too much into the AI translation. They pointed out that ancient texts often mix history, myth, and symbolism, and it can be difficult to separate one from the other. Some also stressed that just because the AI filled in missing words didn't mean those words reflected what was truly written thousands of years ago. Religious leaders who were against the book became even more firm in their opposition. They argued that people were twisting the text into proof for UFOs, conspiracies, and doomsday fears. To them, the Book of Enoch was a warning about rebellion and judgment, not a hidden record of lost civilizations or alien visitors. What became clear is that the AI translation didn't settle the debate. In fact, it made it more intense. Each group took the results in a different direction, interpreting the same passages according to their own beliefs. Scholars saw literature, religious leaders saw theology, scientists saw cultural history, and the general public saw mysteries that might change everything. In the end, the Book of Enoch has once again become a center of controversy. Whether it is a symbolic text, a spiritual warning, or a record of real encounters remains unsettled. What's certain is that the AI's work has forced people to look again at a book that was once pushed aside. So what do you make of all this? Could the Book of Enoch really change how we see history, faith, and even the world around us? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed diving into this mystery, kindly share, like and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next video.